What's up, y'all? It's Miles the Millennial,
And it's your boy, Rex Howard Jr.
and this is Let's Talk Like Men, the podcast where we have real conversations, giving real advice to real men like you everywhere.
Yep.
Man, Rex, how you doing today?
Man, I'm blessed, man. Had a wonderful weekend with my lady. Spent some time with her friends, too, over Easter. Had a really good time. One of her homegirls had a inflatable set up in the backyard.
Oh, y'all was acting like some
Yeah,
kids.
man, with the basketball goal and inflatable, and we had these kind of different kind of games, and man, we had a blast. So really enjoyed myself. What
That's
about you?
awesome. Man, same. Definitely had a great Easter weekend. First off, just the break, right?
Yeah,
My family being home, my mother and my sister being teachers, so they had Friday off. Monday, they got off a little early because the students didn't have to come in, so it's been great.
that's
Cooked
good.
a lot of food on the pit. It was a great weekend, man.
You can't
So,
beat that.
at all. But yeah, I'm excited to be back again. This is our second episode in
Yeah,
our series on Ready for War,
yep,
right? So we've been talking about this month, how are you prepared for the attacks that are going to come to you throughout your life as a man?
yep.
Our first episode, we covered physical war, right? Are you physically fit and capable for the things that you're going to encounter in your life, right? Are you in shape physically? Are you trained? Are you prepared for an attack from the enemy that might harm you in a physical way?
Absolutely.
But now we have to transition and we have to talk about something that is just as important, something that is just as much of a priority to a man, which is our mental ability.
Yep.
Are you mentally prepared and ready for war? So today we're going to break that down. We're going to go into why it's important
Yeah.
to be mentally capable for war and how you can become mentally prepared for war because attacks come from every single angle.
Man, all the time.
So without further ado,
Let's
let's talk
talk
like
like
men.
men. Yes,
All right,
sir.
so let's hop in it. So first thing we want to talk about is a hot topic,
Yep.
right? So I saw something I was scrolling on Twitter yesterday, last night, matter of fact, and there was a podcast clip. A black man was talking to, I don't know the ethnicity of the other woman, but she was not a black woman. And actually, he was a mixed race man, but he was black and whatever else he was mixed with. The question they were talking about, women, his preferences in women and whatnot, and he was saying that women of other races do not like dealing with the problems that black men deal with, right? Her response to him was, then why don't you date black women then?
Right.
To which he didn't answer. He
Right.
kept, kind of going around it and wasn't directly answering the question. I saw a lot of commentary from, women in particular who were saying exactly, this is the problem. You don't want to be challenged or whatever it is. And you don't really even have an answer as to why you don't date black women and why you prefer women of another race.
Right.
How do you feel about interracial dating? How do you feel about the way black women and black men interact with each other? And do we have hopes for a healthy boundary there? Are black men scared of the ways that they have to change to be with a black woman?
Right.
What's your thoughts on that?
Man, it's kind of up and down, kind of all over the place because I've had experience with dating outside
Yeah.
my race. I've had experiences with my guys dating outside the race. And one thing I found is I don't think there's resistance to for other women to date black men that are not in our race because of the trauma. I think it's their families. Every single situation I've ever been in or been around, the person liked me,
Yeah.
loved me, however you want to say it, but it's the idea of blending two cultures, two
Yeah.
races together for their family that they didn't agree with.
Yeah.
A lot of times when you have people from different ethnicities, their parents want you to date within that ethnicity, right? Or within that race. Then also on top of that, some of those different races, they like to choose their partners for them.
Yeah.
And if you're not the one that they want to choose, they would do everything to prevent you from doing that. Perfect example, how one of my guys that dated this young lady that was Indian, right? Their relationship had to be a secret. He had to buy her a second phone so they can communicate because the parents always had the drop on her location. And when the mom found out about him, she gave her daughter ultimatum. Like, you're still in school. We're paying for your school. If you don't break up with him, we're stopping paying for your school and you got to move out.
Wow.
Right. So coming from a wealthy background, she was just like, I can't lose that safety and security for my family. So it's always an internal battle with the family. So that's one side of things. And then when it comes to are black men and black women going to be able to find a balance and find boundaries in order to come back together, I think it's definitely possible, but it's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of healing. And it depends on like how you grew up. Because I know I grew up in, like I said, a impoverished community.
Yeah.
A lot of single parent homes raised by the mothers, and there was a lot of aggression
Yeah.
in my neighborhoods, in my communities. A lot of women, they were okay with fighting men. They were okay with disrespecting men because that's just kind of what they saw. In the beginning, that kind of turned me away from dating my own race simply because that's not what I wanted. But I done found my way back.
Yeah. Hey, look.
I
Found our way to the promised land.
found my way back. So, but what's your thoughts on that, man?
Man, that's super real. Growing up in Houston, where I think at this point 70% of the population is Hispanic, that's all I was around growing up.
Yeah.
Right? Outside of family, most of my friends, most of the girls that I went to school with were Hispanic. And I think naturally because of that, that's who I grew an affinity to like.
Yeah.
Right? But I also remember a period in time as I got older and we were going to middle school and high school and I got more of my black friends. We were all playing sports together. I remember the comments that we used to make, right? About women from other races and ethnicities being foreign and exotic and being unique.
She ain't foreign, is she born?
Exactly. I remember lines that Lil Wayne would say, and everybody got to be a red bone and light skin and all these different things. I just think about so much stuff that we were pushed on ourselves and what we heard. We really believed that our black women weren't good enough. Right. And we weren't dating them. And what I noticed is, in order for a black woman to be attractive to us when we were growing up, she had to be a 9 or a 10.
100%.
For us to even look her way and think that she was good enough.
Yep.
But a Hispanic girl or a white girl or somebody else could be a 6 or a 7, but because she ain't black, she got the up on the black girls.
100%.
And I think about, first off, the pain that probably caused all the black women that went to high school with us. And me and my boy Jalen have talked about this a lot. There are so many of those young women who probably grew up with a lot of disdain and distaste towards black men because we're sitting there with our heads on our shoulders, good things going for us, and we won't even look their way. But we will give these other girls who are from different races and ethnicities all the time in the world and all the attention in the world, and they're not even comparable
100%.
to what the black girls had going on for them. Then I went to Fisk, and that changed everything.
Game changer.
Went to an HBCU, and my entire world flipped upside down when I sat there and I got away from the delusion and from that clouded judgment, and I was able to see what it felt like to be around your black people and accept your blackness for who you really were. Because that's really what it was. It was self-hate. Right? You looking at yourself when you see her. And I do think a lot of black men struggle with this, right? I do think a lot of black men look at other women from other races as more attractive to them simply because they know their internal problems that they have. A lot of those other women are privy to or won't, take issue with it. They're not going to be bothered with it. Black women, on the other hand, are very aware of the issues that black men have. And they're going to address it and call it out. One thing our women are going to do is be vocal. And a lot of black men can't deal with that, right? I also think that a lot of our black women need to learn how to communicate that to black men. Because we do have broken communication systems amongst each other. If you're dealing with people who have been abused physically, mentally, and emotionally for hundreds of years, when you come at them, especially when you think about the history of how they pitted black men and women against each other throughout history in America, we are already predisposed to be adversaries in a lot of ways. It's unnatural for us to get along at this point because genetically we have so much trauma in us. And so we have to learn how to communicate. Black women have to know how to pour that love into a black man so that he can feel something that he may not have ever felt before. Right? And black men have to be capable of receiving that love and not pushing it away. So, those are my thoughts.
Now, that's amazing. That last point you made was the most important to me because, like you said, when you date outside of your race, they don't know what it feels like to be a black man. They don't know what it feels like to be conscious of being black everywhere you go. They don't know of the stereotypes or like even getting pulled over with somebody that's from a different race. They don't realize the protocol that we have to go through mentally and physically to make sure that we make it home safe. But like you said, the black woman does. So if there's nothing wrong with dating outside your race. But fellas, if you want to build something and you don't want to have to teach somebody from scratch how to love you, you don't want to have to teach somebody from scratch about your race and about what you've been through, man, get you a black woman and stop playing.
Let me tell you, these queens, think about your children. I think about this a lot. The relationship I have now with my girl and the things we talk about, the things that are just natural for us to understand, I can't imagine having a black child and his mother couldn't explain that to him,
Yeah.
right? Having a black daughter and, her mother couldn't explain these things to her. It's beautiful to have somebody that understands you and
Yeah.
knows where you come from and can empathize with your struggle because they have been through it themselves as well.
Yep.
Because then you have a real partner. Um, and like I said, if you find love, I want people to love who they love. I want you to be happy. But everything you can find in any woman of another race or culture, you can find in black women. We come
Oh,
in all shapes and sizes, all colors, all variants.
absolutely.
You can find you your queen. Don't sit here and talk about, oh, black women are too aggressive, black women are too this, are too that. First off, you're putting a generalization on all black women. There are plenty of black women who communicate completely different ways.
Yep.
Stop running from the fact that you don't want to accept the accountability that you're going to have to address some unhealthy ways about you because they're not going to roll over for piss poor,
Right.
you know?
It's not going to roll over. And then also you got to think about your environment.
Yeah.
You got to think about the type of where are you going to go date, where are you going to go pick women up, where are you going to find your partner?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we complain about always being around the wrong woman, but we're always in the wrong environments. We're always in the wrong environments. Like a lot of my guys, they like, I don't really date black women anymore because all the ones in the club be this, that, and the third.
Come on.
I'm like, bro, think about what you just said. All the women in the
In the
club.
club. Why are you there all the
There's
time?
so many other places. I would tell you this. So, my lady and I, we had the opportunity to go to Dallas for our anniversary. One of our friends invited us to church in Dallas Social. And when I tell you, it was probably about 90% black, right? And then the age range, 90% of the age range was anywhere between 25 to 33.
Wow.
And the conversation was about relationships. And he said, for all the people that are single, stand up. There was hundreds of black women that stood up, hundreds of black men that stood up. And he was like, look around the room. And he was just like, a lot of y'all went out last night and tried to pick somebody up from the club or from the bar. But he was like, if you're going to do it, this is the place
This
to
is
do
the place.
it. This is the place to do it. A lot of beautiful people stood up. And I was like, this is the place.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I love that, Rex. That's so powerful. All right. Well, anything else you got to say on the hot topic?
Nah.
Okay, so let's move on to our main topic of the episode. We already off to a great start. So, Rex, let's keep it rolling, man. You're
Yeah.
on fire. What's your first point on why and or how you need to be mentally prepared for war?
Okay, you need to be mentally prepared for war because being mentally tough enables men to make rational decisions under pressure and also considering the long-term consequences to those things, right? So let's talk about that. Where we are, we're already in a vulnerable position, right?
Yeah.
We're black men, we're successful black men. We have beautiful partners and we have a nice platform where we give real advice
Yeah.
on a lot of different topics. We have hundreds and thousands of viewers on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
Right? We're already under attack.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The women that watch our videos are going to want to get closer to us. Right? The people,
Yeah.
let's just say we get to the point where we start doing events in person, it's going to be the same thing. So we have to be mentally tough simply because we have to be able to fight off all the resistance
Yeah.
that comes our way. We have to be able to make decisions that not only work in the short term, but also work in the long term, right? We have to be able to be mindful and cognizant of the places that we put ourselves, of the conversations that we're having, of the photos that we're liking. Because if not, mentally, we can get messed up.
Man, that's so true. You know what you're talking about is the fact that demons are coming.
100%.
They are coming. Like as you grow as a man, this is something that every man needs to be aware of. As you become more successful, you get more money, you get more promise in your life. The demons of the world take note of that too. It's not just your friends that are noticing your growth, it's also your enemies.
100%.
And a lot of times, enemies will be disguised in the form of people close to you, will be disguised in the form of a question, will be disguised in the form of somebody coming to you in need.
Yep.
And it's setting you up for a fall. And we've seen many men fall from this. They have all of this prosperity going on in their life, and then they come out with a cheating scandal.
Yep.
Right? We see them come out. Oh, they're going bankrupt. They're getting a divorce. All these different things that happen that end up tearing apart everything that they built because they didn't have the mental fortitude to be able to have longevity in their sight whenever they were making certain decisions, financial decisions. They were thinking too in the moment,
Yep.
and they weren't planning for what could happen in the future. in the future. They're thinking from a temptation perspective when it comes sexually with women.
Yeah.
And so they're not able to set boundaries or be wise in their decision making and where they're going and what they're doing
Yep.
with the opposite sex. And it leads to their downfall. They're not wise in the way that they're dealing with their wife, and it leads to divorce. So that mental fortitude, like you said, is a protection against demons because you're thinking long term and not succumbing to the pressures that are coming to you in a moment.
Man, that's amazing. And even think about it like this. When it comes to violence or just protecting yourself, right? Somebody that isn't mentally stuck, isn't mentally tough, doesn't have the decision making skills to say, you know what, I need to defend myself. I need to walk away from this.
Yeah.
What's one of the things they teach you in gun safety class? They say if somebody is attacking you and you're in imminent danger, you can use force.
Yep.
But if they turn their back to you,
You got to stop.
you got to stop.
Mhm.
If somebody breaks into your house and you catch them in your house, you can use force. But if you catch them running away from you, you have to stop. So somebody that can't make those decisions will end up trying to protect themselves, but also put themselves in harm and
Yeah.
in danger simply because they wasn't thinking right.
Exactly.
Right. So let's take it a step further. I'm going to tell the men and the women something that you can use to become a better decision
Let's
maker.
hear it.
Right. So this is called irrational self-analysis.
Okay. Break it down.
Right. So we all have, matter of fact, perfect example. We're gonna do it together.
Okay, bet.
We're gonna do
Let's
it together. All right. So with rational self-analysis, it all starts with an activating event, right? So perfect example. Somebody walks in the room that you're in, maybe it's kind of crowded, and they bump up against you, right? We all have irrational beliefs.
Yeah.
We all have positive beliefs.
Yeah.
Right? Or rational beliefs. Your very first irrational thought is going to be what? If somebody bumps you.
Man, he did that on purpose.
Right.
Who do you think he is?
Right. So the irrational thought is he did it on purpose. Now, every thought turns into an action. That action may be what?
Well, push him back.
Okay, boom. You push him back. So every action turns into a short-term outcome, which could be what?
A fight.
A fight, right? All right. Now, every short-term outcome turns into a long-term outcome, which could be what?
Going to jail, losing your life, killing that person.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Broken trust, like now you're in danger. Now you're putting everybody around you in danger, right? Now, that's the irrational side. Now, that was your rational. Now, your positive, challenging belief could be what?
It was an accident.
It was an accident. Okay, cool. Which will lead to an action that leads to what?
Forgiveness, right? Saying, oh, my bad, letting it go.
Okay, which leads to a short-term outcome, which can be what?
Peace.
Peace.
We ain't having no fights tonight.
Exactly. And then a long-term outcome that can lead to what?
Man, life is good.
Life is great. You feel me? You're safe. You're good. Nothing bad is happening. And a perfect example of this is my graduation weekend. About 10 or 15 of my family and friends and my lady, we all went out to Bell Station, right? And and we're having a good time. We had a couple shots, and I accidentally stepped on somebody's shoe. So the guy said, "Hey, bro, you just stepped on my shoe." I said, "My bad, brother. Let me buy you a shot." Whole mood switched up. He said, "Oh, man, it's all good, bro."
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? I could have easily came back with aggression, could have ended the whole night.
Yep.
Right? Plus, it could have been bad for him because I got 15 folks with me.
Exactly.
But because I took the approach to be rational about my decisions, I was able to de-escalate everything, buy the brother a shot. We talked about my graduation. He bought me a shot, and we ended up exchanging information, especially when I told him I was graduating with.
Yeah.
So that right there is what you call the rational self-analysis. I do it with all my coaching clients, and it kind of teaches them how to break it down. On first, we write it on paper, and then it becomes something you think about. And then once you do it enough, when you see certain decisions, you're already thinking, that's irrational, this is rational,
Exactly.
let's go this route.
Man, that is amazing, first off, because it also leads to another point in terms of mental fortitude. When you have that belief and that confidence from a mental perspective about your decision making, you're able to think those things through. You can do that rational self analysis in a split second and say, I got this choice and I got this choice. And when you always have your priorities and the long term in mind, because you are somebody that has good mental fortitude, you will always choose the option that will put you in the best position to achieve those goals,
100%.
rather than making an irrational decision that's going to push you away from them.
100%. Last thing I'll say about that is, one of my best friends' dads, James Davis, he taught me that. Right, he served some time in prison, and he said I had to take a program while I was in there, and that was one of the first things they taught us. And they'll make all the prisoners that took that course, they all gave them an activating event. All right, somebody steal something from your room,
Yeah.
and they'll make them walk through the whole process. And I thought it was a super dope. So
That's
shout
awesome,
out to
man.
him for that.
That's awesome. That
What
was powerful. That's a tangible one for you guys. Think it through, because a lot of us, we don't regulate those decisions
Right.
well, and then we have to look back on them in life
100%.
and be like, man, that wasn't wise, that wasn't smart. All right, so my point number one kind of flows with what we were just talking about, which is it allows you, when you're mentally tough, to be cool under pressure.
That's good.
Right? So it gives you the ability to make a quick decision without panicking. So I'm gonna tell you guys a story. This was about a month and a half ago. My girlfriend was in town, riding through the city. I think we were getting some food. I'm on a 4-lane road, two directions, my direction of traffic, and two oncoming. I'm in the left lane, riding down, and somebody is coming to a stop sign, and it's like an 18-wheeler truck. Okay. The truck decides that it's going to pull out and not stop at the stop sign at all, just go straight through.
Goodness.
Right when I'm coming through. And we're not going slow. We're not speeding, but it's like 45 speed limit on the road. So it's not like we're going slow. So I'm going 45, 50 miles an hour, and I have a decision to make very quickly. I make the decision that the only logical decision for me to be able to make it through here or make it around here or stop was to go faster to beat him around that lane before he got to my lane. He was already entering the right lane and he was about to come in the left lane. My girlfriend looks at me and she's like, why would you do that? That didn't make any sense. This, that, and that. And so we get into it about it. And then we sit there. I had to calm down for a second and say, okay, why do you think that I made the wrong decision there? And she was like, because you could have just stopped. You know, you could have stopped. You saw him pulling out. This, that, and that. And I had to break down to her. I said, okay, did you see the stop sign that was there? She's like, I didn't see a stop sign there. I said, exactly. That's one. I said, did you see the cars that were right behind us that were going just as fast as we were? She's like, no, I didn't, have time to look in the rearview mirror or anything to see the cars that are behind. I said, did you see the car that was in our blind spot on the right side?
Yeah.
So it's not like I could have gotten over in the lane. I said, so stopping abruptly would have caused us to get rear-ended. If we tried to swerve into the other lane, we would have got hit by the car in that lane, plus we would have ran into the truck.
Yeah.
There's no option to swerve. There's no option to stop. The only option at this point is either hit him
Yeah.
or try and go around him. And so I had to make a split-second decision. And what I told her was, I know that sometimes you might not see all the thoughts that are happening very quickly that go into my decision making, but I need you to trust that I am thinking about what
100%.
I'm doing before I do it. And she's like, well, it just didn't seem like it because you were so calm.
Yeah.
I said, that's the point. When you have practiced these scenarios, when you're constantly calculating things in your head on a daily basis, when the real situation comes, you can think in the midst of panic.
Yeah.
And I think that that is something that is a major role for a man to have, is to be able to think amongst chaos,
Yeah.
right?
We
To
learned
be able to
that.
control that environment for yourself, to know that like, hey, it's 1,000,001 things going on. I need to focus my thoughts and actions on what is going to be the best and most effective way to get out of this situation. And sometimes people are not going to understand that.
Right.
People might not get it. But when you're cool under pressure, it is an example of your mental toughness.
So the question is, how do you build that muscle?
Yeah. It's a daily thing. So one thing I always say is, and I say this to my friends all the time, we have conversations about stuff that goes on in our life. Before you make a decision, I need you to think about the implications of that action.
Yeah.
Like, it's not going to be quick, but a lot of our decisions aren't necessarily quick. Those situations in panic, yes, those are split second. But when you're making the decision to cheat on your girlfriend,
Yeah.
right? When you're making the decision to go out that night or stay in, when you're making the decision to spend money on something or save it, those are not spur of the moment decisions. Those are things you can take the time to think through. I advise people that the best thing you can do in every single circumstance is think about the pros and the cons and weigh your choices and say, what do I really want?
Yep.
What happens is you start building up muscle memory.
Yep.
You start building up self-awareness. And as you start building up that self-awareness, what you'll notice is in a lot of different environments, you are thinking on a level that a lot of other people aren't thinking on.
That's good.
You're already maneuvering in ways that you've seen the threat a mile away. You saw when these dudes walked into that club,
Yeah.
how this dude in the left corner, this dude that just walked past, how they eyed each other, or that they bumped into each other and they already had some beef. I remember we were at Minerva, um, in Nashville. This was for TSU homecoming,
Mm.
and it was me, my girlfriend, and her two friends. And they're standing there having a good time, enjoying themselves as they should. And they're like, "Why are you so serious right now?" And I said, "Because I feel like something's about to go down with these two groups that are right in
Yeah.
front of us. These two dudes, these two groups, and two dudes in those groups were just staring each other down the entire time." Lo and behold, I told them after a little while, I just started seeing it get a little too much commotion. And I said, "Man, we need to leave.
Yeah, it's
We
time to
need to
go.
go." Literally, we see on people's stories later on that night, everybody fighting in the club right there where we were standing.
You gotta feel it.
You have to feel it. And when you're paying attention, it's like, okay, let me not stick around and find out. I would much rather leave the scenario and know I'm getting home safe and make sure they're getting home safe because I got a responsibility to myself and to them to
Yeah.
make sure we're good. And so you build that confidence, you build that ability by just making sure that when you're going through life, you're thinking through all the scenarios and choosing the one that works best.
That's amazing. And then I think the last thing I would just want to add to that um, is when you're out, let's fellas, you're out with your guys, you're out
Mhm.
with your lady, you're out with your whoever. Don't ever get to the point where you're too intoxicated to be aware of what's going on around you.
Yeah.
Right? There's always something happening.
Mm-hmm.
Like for instance, if you're in a big group and one person goes to the bathroom by themselves, you need to be aware to make sure somebody's going with them.
Mm-hmm.
If you're too lit at the bar and somebody can and you're not paying attention to your drinks or you're not putting a napkin over your drink when you're not drinking it, you need to be aware of what's happening with that. Like you said, with energy shifting in the room, you need to be aware so you can make the proper decision and get out of there.
Exactly.
Where I grew up, everybody ran towards the fight and never
Mm-hmm.
away from the fight.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but I learned very early.
Yeah.
You know, when I experienced, I wasn't a part of a shootout, but I was around the shootout,
Mm-hmm.
and we knew commotion was happening. But as soon as guns started firing, we all took off running.
Yep.
And I thought to myself, bullets don't have no name
At
on them.
all.
So I thought to myself, and for everybody that's listening, if you're in a situation, don't never get to the point where you don't know what's going on around you, so you can make the proper decision when something happens.
That's real. I love that, man.
Yes, sir.
What's your point number 2, Rex?
All right, point number 2 is it's crazy. It kind of goes along with yours, right? Emotional regulation. Right, mental toughness helps men manage their emotions effectively, allowing them to stay composed and maintain positive attitude amid stress, uncertainty, and criticism.
Hmm.
So, not to say too much of what you said, but think about relationships. We all have triggers.
Yeah.
We all have triggers. So some of our triggers can be feeling disrespected. Some of our triggers can be if our girl walks out of the room and we don't agree with the outfit,
Yeah.
especially if we finna go out. Some of our triggers may be somebody putting their hands on us. If we don't know how to regulate our emotions and to calm ourselves down, we'll find ourselves making decisions that go against what we believe in, go against who we are, go against our character, right? So you have to be able to rationalize and regulate your emotions, calm yourself down, self-soothe, so you can finish the conversation,
Yeah.
so you can make the right decisions, so your relationship can be good, so you won't say something back to your partner because you feel disrespected.
Yeah.
Right? I'm working with a client right now, a young man is 21 years old. And he said, Rex, I have an issue with being led. I have an issue with being told what to do. So the minute somebody tries to tell me what to do, I snap on them. And I say, so where has that gotten you? And he was like, well, in a whole bunch of fights, always in trouble, and a lack of trust from people. And I was like, so is that the type of person you want to be? He was like, no, I want to be better. I said, and what do you think it's going to take for you to be better? He's like, learn how to regulate my emotions. And I was like, so what's the hardest part about doing that? He said, I've never been around people that knew how to. He was like, so my mom didn't regulate her emotions well. My dad never regulated his emotions well. The people I grew up around, they always said names or try to bully me. So I always had to defend myself. So I'm always in a state of fight or flight, but I'm never in a state of calm.
Yeah.
So back to our earlier points, it's environment.
Yeah.
It's putting yourself around the right people. It's reading the right books. It's having the resources, having access to resources that's going to help you learn these things.
The key is what we're saying here is if you want to change the output, you got to change the input.
Yep.
Everything that you get in life is an equation, man. You know this, I know this, man. This plus this equals that. So one of the things that we have to recognize is we're one of the variables in all those
100%.
equations. What is it that we can change about ourselves
Yep.
X equals Y, whatever. What does X need to change to?
Yep.
What is it, the input that we need to alter? Like you said, sometimes what we need is, okay, I struggle with this. I'm very good at this. I need to get better at this.
Yep.
Okay, change the variable. Put myself around people who are very good at what I'm trying to improve
Yep.
at. The areas that I'm struggling, let me remove myself from this type of environment that's going to allow me to be triggered there. I need to leave the household where all this unnecessary emotional turmoil is happening and
Yep.
people are constantly trying me. And I need to be around spaces that are far more healthy, that are far more peaceful and far more calm so I can get used to that. Because a lot of times what happens is people aren't even comfortable
Yep.
with the idea of peace because they haven't seen it.
Yep.
They're so comfortable with turmoil. They're so comfortable with drama and trauma that is where they will choose to live because at least they know
It's
and they're
comfortable.
comfortable there.
Yep.
So, a key part about that, like you said, what we're really just saying is you got to change the input if you want to change the output of your life.
And you got to be willing to be uncomfortable doing that. Because like
Mm-hmm.
you said, if I've lived a life of trauma, if I've lived a life of dysregulation, I've lived a life of fight or flight, I don't know what it feels like to be at peace. I don't know
Yes.
what it feels like to be calm and not have to shake my leg or not have to be anxious about what's going on around me.
Yes.
So just know, just because you want to switch it up, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be uncomfortable. And sometimes you're going to want to revert back to what's safe for you,
Yes.
but you're not going to be able to. That's just like taking somebody that's lived in the projects their whole life.
Mm.
They've been around fights. They've been around shootouts. They have this sense of paranoia because they're always extremely aware of what's going on.
Yeah.
And then taking them to a suburban area,
Yeah.
right? If they see a car creeping, oh nah, bro, we gotta move. Like,
Exactly.
bro, we in the suburbs. You don't gotta worry
Exactly.
about that here.
Exactly.
Right? You're always gonna be on high alert because your body is used to trauma. Your body is used to reacting and and making rash decisions.
Yeah. That's real, man.
Yeah.
I
So
like that.
that's what I got, man. What you got?
Man, it kind of flows with what you said. We on a roll. So a mentally fit man is a better partner.
That's good.
So one of the things that's really important about that mental fitness, everything that you are as an individual is going to play out in your relationship.
Right.
It's going to be magnified, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
You don't become half of the person that you naturally are. You become the worst or best version of yourself. It's one or the other. You don't tone down things, you bring them all out.
Yeah.
And so all your little issues will become big issues in your relationship when you aren't mentally fit. So one of the best ways or biggest ways that mental fitness will help you is because you're going to become better equipped for communication with your partner.
Yep.
Right? Your girlfriend or your wife, like you said, may hit you with something that you don't like emotionally, mentally, spiritually. Something might happen that they say or do that triggers you. And it's important in that moment that you become the type of man that can communicate how that made you feel, that can communicate the logic behind how you guys need to maneuver out of this situation. And you're not in a space where you're ineffective with the way you're maneuvering
That's
that
good.
relationship. The next thing is when you're mentally fit, you can understand the emotions that are at play between both parties, right? You are able to, because you're so strong mentally and you've gone through things in life and you've recognized the things that you go through, what you're dealing with emotionally. You can also recognize another person's emotions. You brought this up before, which is, right, a person's ability to empathize makes them a good leader. That's what
Yeah.
makes a man a good leader. And I think that is so true, because if I can't understand my own emotions and I can't understand your emotions, everything's going to seem way too personal.
Yep.
Everything's going to seem way too violent and volatile, and I'm never going to be able to separate myself to think clearly about what it is that I'm feeling, they're feeling, and what needs to be done so that we can be in the best space as a partnership.
Man, that's amazing. That's amazing. So do you have an example of that in your current relationship?
For sure. Man, the really both times that me and my girlfriend stayed with each other for a little while, she both of these times were in transitionary periods in
Okay.
her life where she was either about to move into an apartment or moving out of an apartment and waiting to go to another one. So she would stay with me for a few months while she was in that apartment searching process. That was a tough period because we had never lived together, right? And that's not something that we really plan on doing until we're married. But, being a partnership, it was fine. We could do that temporarily. And what I noticed was our individual emotions about different things, our individual selfishness about different things caused us to argue a lot. And it got to a point to where I remember going through a couple different phases. My first phase was always just to directly address things and be assertive, to the point, cutthroat with it, and I was mean, man.
Mm.
Like the things I would say would be mean. It's like, dang, man, you ain't even thinking about how this is gonna make her feel,
Yeah.
right? Then the next version was right, and the only reason I reacted that way was because I felt like you don't ever hear me until I get aggressive,
Yeah.
right? Until I get emotional, not physically aggressive, but verbally, right? Until I raise my voice, you don't even get quiet enough to hear what I'm saying. You're always interrupting me, right? So that was my first coping mechanism with it was get louder.
Yeah.
My second coping mechanism was I don't like screaming. I don't
Mm.
come from that in my life.
Yeah.
We're able to talk in my household. Okay, since you don't seem to get the picture unless I'm screaming, but I don't want to keep screaming. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna get completely quiet.
Yeah.
When you interrupt me, I'm not gonna say nothing. Matter of fact, I'm gonna walk away. But then I learned that that didn't help either
No.
because then we weren't resolving
No.
anything. So I had to have a conversation with myself and really sit and think. And I had to tell myself, bro, if yelling doesn't get you what you want out of her, and being completely silent doesn't get you what you want out of her, clearly you have to say something. Maybe it's the way you're saying it.
Yeah.
And I had to take that L, right? And say, hey, she might respond in a way right now that isn't the way you want to hear it, but don't take that personal. You are the person that's supposed to lead.
Yeah.
And so if you want to be the leader, that means figure out a way that's going to actually be a good example for her to be able to model after.
Yeah.
And so I started saying how things made me feel, not just reacting by how they made me feel.
Yeah.
If I was angry and I said, what you just said pissed me off, instead of, responding to her pissed off, I say, that really hurt my feelings and that really upsets me and makes me pissed off.
Yeah.
And what it always did was when she would hear how something she said or did hurt my feelings, the first thing out of her mouth after that was, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
Yeah.
That wasn't my intention. I wasn't coming from that place. Everybody calms down whenever people are open and honest about their actual feelings instead of reacting to how they feel.
Yeah.
And that is your role as a man. You really need to become the type of person that can say, hey, you hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
Hey, that made me feel, I lack confidence when you said that. That made me feel like I wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
That made me feel like I'm less than. When you become that type of person who can be vulnerable, people are more willing to listen, more willing to be a part of your life in a way that says, hey, I don't want to hurt you. So let me change the way that I'm behaving. But you
100%.
got to be effective with your mental to be able to understand your emotions and communicate effectively.
And take accountability for what you're feeling.
Yes.
A communication tool that we use in the office is I feel blank when you blank and I need blank. Right? So I feel disrespected. I feel dysregulated. I feel less confident when you talk to me in a demeaning way. Right? So I need you to come at me softer with a softer tone or to use different words. So it allows for you to take accountability for how you feel, and it allows for you to let them know what they're doing without criticizing them,
Yeah.
right? Without making them feel like they're inferior. And then it also lets them know what you need from them in order to do better. And anytime you put the ball in somebody's court
Yes.
respectfully,
Yes.
it gives you opportunity to see their heart, to see if they're willing to change, right? But you have to have that mental fortitude, that mental toughness in order to sit in it, to be able to be present with your feelings, with your emotions, and to relay that to somebody in the most respectful way.
But what you said right there about being able to see a person's heart, that is so important. And that was one of the things it left my mind when I was talking in this past one, but that was something I was thinking about is the fact that when you do it in this process, you're going to see how much this person really wants to make it work with
Yeah.
you. Because if I don't want to hurt your feelings and that is a priority to me, when I realize I am hurting your feelings and I did it unintentionally, I will do everything in my power to not do that again.
100%.
And people ask me all the time, how do you know when you're ready to leave a relationship? And I have a perfect example because the relationship I was in previous, I was with somebody that when I would express the way these things would make me feel, that person's response was, well, you're just going to have to deal with that, right? I'm not going to let go of the way I feel. I'm not going to invalidate my own feelings just because what I said or how I reacted hurt your feelings. And it was always very selfish and evil to me because it's like, man, I would never do anything to intentionally harm you and your feelings. If I did something that triggered you from something that happened in your past that I had nothing to do, I had nothing to do with this. I didn't even know this was something that existed. And then you react a certain way to me. Okay, got it. Now we're talking about, and I'm telling you how that made me feel, and you don't even apologize. You don't feel bad. And you say, well, that's just the way I am.
Yeah.
Now I know that you're going to always choose the way you feel,
Yep.
the way you have gone through your trauma. You're going to always choose that over the compromise or the safety that can be held if we work together.
Yep.
That's a time to leave. Versus with my girlfriend now, it's the complete opposite.
Yep.
It's I'm sorry, babe. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. This is why I did this. I don't like the way that you said this. Okay. And we apologizing. I say sorry so much. She say sorry so much. It becomes so comfortable and it's freeing
Yep.
because you can just let it go. I get that they didn't mean to hurt me.
Yep.
And that's a powerful place to be.
You're right. That's amazing, man.
All right, what's your third point, Rex?
All right, so perseverance and determination, right? So men with mental toughness possess a strong sense of perseverance and determination, enabling them to stay committed to their aspirations despite obstacles and discouragement, right? Iggy Johnson said a quote. He says, "Can you stay committed to the goal and the process long after the mood that you set it in has left?" Right? So I think about life. I think about every time I made a decision that was tough and how many times I didn't back out.
Yeah.
Right? Perfect example. When I first made my trip to Houston, I had $1,200 to my name.
Yeah.
Right? Anybody that's used to a safety net would never done that, because when I got to Houston, I paid what I needed to pay. I had $100 left over. Now I have to go grind. I have to go get it. Another situation. A lot of people know this. My second job while I was here, I worked at my apartment complex. I was the trash man, right? And there was times where I would go down to the trash chute and it'd be stuck, and all the trash bags would be kind of stuck. So you got to use the stick to punch at it, and juices will fly and hit you in the face. Could easily quit.
Yeah.
Could have easily quit. We had moments where, the big dumpsters that with the wheels on them.
Yeah.
We had a golf cart. We had 8 of them for the building. I was the only trash man. Had to take these bad boys to the street. It's probably about 100 yards, and it had this incline that goes, or decline that goes out of the garage. But our golf cart went out for 2 weeks, which means I had to physically push these
Wow.
dumpsters to the street and then push them up the incline to get back into the garage. I'm talking about, I could have easily quit.
Yeah.
But I said, this has got to be teaching me something. This is going to make me a better person.
Yeah.
Another example, when I'm with my relationship, like you said, your last relationship, your partner said certain things and it made you feel the way it was triggering. Anytime my partner says something to me that's triggering me from my past, I have to have the perseverance to sit in it, to acknowledge it, to share it with her, to make sure we can get to the other side.
Yeah.
Right? When things aren't going the best and the communication isn't there or intimacy isn't there and you don't want to leave and your partner doesn't want to leave, but you just got to figure it out, that builds upon that perseverance.
Yes.
You stick it out. Going through the process that we went through in undergrad.
Exactly.
There's moments that you didn't want to keep going. There's
Exactly.
moments that things kind of got tough. But in order to see it through, to stick it out, you kept it going.
Yeah.
So it gives you this mentality that I have to, I must, and there's no other way but to go straight through.
That's real, man. Sometimes you got to go through it, not around it, as you always say.
Absolutely.
And that is a message that as men we're gonna deal with. Life is tough, man, and you're not gonna get around the fact that it's going to be tough. And so whatever storm you're in right now, whatever season you're in right now, you need to sit in it.
Yeah, get through it.
You need to embrace it. You need to say, you know what? I know this is leading me towards something greater. And even if you don't know what that greater is, know that this isn't happening to you for just any reason.
Right.
There's a purpose behind it. And if you want the examples of the purpose, just reflect on how you've dealt with conflict in your life before. Have you always been the type of person that ran away from it? Have you always been the type of person that didn't take responsibility for it? Have you always been the type of person that gave up on things too quick? Well, guess what? You persevered through this. I promise you, everything else is going to be much more manageable.
Everything, yeah.
So that's good.
It's like what's it called? The snowball effect. Right? The smaller the snowballs, you keep going and keep rolling and get bigger and bigger and bigger. And that perseverance builds up, the determination builds up, and it makes you a more effective leader too.
Exactly.
If I know that you've made it through a lot of situations and you're still good, you're still happy, you're still flowing. Like when people see me, they say, "Rex, how you doing?" I say, "Man, I'm blessed and highly favored."
Yeah.
I could be absolutely going through a storm, but I know I'm going to make it through it.
Exactly.
And a lot of times, well, all the time, you can't get through things like that without God.
Yeah.
Without having faith, without having His word, without having His protection, without having His guidance. Because I don't think we mentioned that on this podcast today, but mentally tough individuals have a great relationship with God.
That's very true.
Right?
Yeah, that's very true. And I think that comes through submission.
Yeah.
Right? When you keep on trying to do life your way and it keeps landing you in deeper and deeper holes.
Yep.
And it's like, you know what? In those low moments, in those struggling moments, that's when you say, God, you are the only person that can get me through this.
100%.
My mom and my dad can't save me. My girl can't save me. Drugs can't save me.
Yep.
Alcohol can't save me. Sex can't save me. Nothing can save me but you. I'm
Yep.
yours. And when you accept him into your life, he starts to make a way out of no way.
Yep.
So that's really good.
Yeah. Yes, sir. So is
This
that
flows. Go ahead. Sorry.
no, you good.
So this actually flows in my point. Mentally fit men have a much easier time finding purpose and fulfillment in their life.
That's good.
So when you have mental fitness, you see clarity amongst a lot of things. And if you really kind of combine the 5 points that we've already made, you can see why your purpose and fulfillment comes a little bit easier. One, like you said, mentally fit people think long term. So you're able to see through the shade that can be put over your eyes in short-term decisions, right? So a lot of times you want stuff just in the moment, but purpose is long-term, fulfillment is long-term. You're able to see a real value as to why you're here on earth whenever you have long-term thinking. Whenever you have regulation over your emotions, you're not getting swayed by how something makes you feel that may make you turn away from something that's good from you. When you have perseverance and determination, when you're on your journey towards your purpose, you won't run.
Yeah.
You will not quit. You won't give up. And even if you stumble or falter, you will always pick back up and say, hey, I'm not done with you yet.
100%.
Right. And so, as a man, having purpose and fulfillment, having a mission is our calling on this earth. God has given us all a calling and a mission. When you find it, when it's revealed to you, or when you come across things that align, because you're mentally fit, you pay more attention to it. You'll see something and you'll say, you know what? I think this might be good for me.
Yep.
This might be the perfect opportunity. You won't run or miss opportunities because you're jaded and because you don't have the mental toughness for it. Sometimes your purpose might be the nastiest, ugliest, unattractive thing at first.
Yep.
It may not be easy. You sit there and you say the requirements are what?
Yep.
But because you have the perseverance, the toughness, that mental fitness, you say, man, that ain't nothing. Not for the lifetime of paradise I want.
Yep.
Not for the fulfillment it's gonna give me for the rest of my life when I'm doing this. And so because you have that mental fitness, you're able to find your purpose, stick with it, and actually achieve fulfillment.
And then sit in it,
Sit in it.
and then understand it, and then work on it, and then develop it, and then you see the fruits from your labor.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
Love it.
Have you now? This is random, and I'm not even sure if it goes with it. But do you feel like you know what your purpose is?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I feel like God given me visions, man,
Right.
to be the most influential and well-known speaker to exist by the time I die.
That's good.
That when I'm done, every soul on God's earth will have heard my voice,
That's good.
have been impacted by my words in one form or another, whether it's through reading my books, whether it's through hearing my speeches, finding quotes of mine, right? I think of the biggest people in the game right now, and I see myself being more influential. And I'm not talking about income, I'm talking about impact. I want to change the lives of every young adult in the world.
Right.
And I want to do that through my words. God has given me the ability from a very early age to use my talents as a speaker and as a writer to influence emotions and thoughts of people since the day I was born. I was 3 years old in churches getting the elderly ladies to stand up off their feet when I would give my Easter speeches.
Mhm.
You know, I was 10 years old debating adults on sports.
Yeah.
You know, 17 when I won a national debate tournament at Harvard in my very first tournament. God showed me from a long time ago, you're going to use your voice. Your purpose is to use your voice and your words to change the mindsets of young adults and bring them to me.
That's amazing. But think about it like this, bro. I'm gonna pull this up real quick. Uh, you think about our TikTok, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's go. Let's talk like men.
Man, we about to get into it.
Let's go here. So between your last two videos that went up on our page, there is 1 million views,
Wow.
right?
Wow.
1 million views. Now, let me ask you a question. When's the last time you've been in a room with 1 million people?
Never.
When's the last time you've been in an environment with 1 million people?
Never.
There's probably 1 million people in Houston,
Yeah.
right? So, in other words, we got a million views on those videos, or you got those on those videos. Just imagine being in front of the state of Texas
Yeah.
and everybody's watching you.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
So everything you just said about what God put in you and who you see yourself to be in the visions is already playing out.
That's affirmation right there, brother. Thank you for that.
Yeah, already. It's already playing out. And E.T. said one time, he said, don't get so caught up in the views. He was like, because even if you get 200 to 400 views,
Bro.
he said, when's the last time you sat in a room and talked to 200 people?
Mm-hmm.
400 people.
Yeah.
And he was just like, but so the fact that you're talking about between two videos, 1 million views,
Yeah.
that's next level. And you're only what, 27,
26.
26 years old.
Yeah.
And it's only going to get better.
That's powerful, brother. You know, I think about that just for us. We were talking about this the other day. When it's God ordained what you're doing, all your expectations will be blown out the water.
100%.
If you think it's gonna take a year, it'll take 6 months.
Yep.
If you think it's gonna be slow growth, it'll be exponential.
Yep.
Right? But the key is you have to see through the slow moments.
Yep.
You have to see it through the long nights
Yep.
and the work that you have to put in. You have to see through the mundaneness because it is going to feel like it's taking forever.
Yep.
Until you look back on how far you come, you're like, did we really just do this that quick?
Yep.
We got 4,000 followers. First off, shout out to all of y'all. The way things have been growing up on TikTok, we appreciate it so much because we couldn't have imagined that this would happen this quickly. But that's God.
Nothing but God.
That's nothing but God. And so that aligns with what we're saying because we are two mentally tough individuals and we've gone through a lot of things in life that have built up our confidence, built up our thought process, built up our decision making and our endurance to struggle. Because we have those things, this is only the beginning. And God has allowed us to see a vision and find a purpose in this platform,
Yeah.
endure all struggles with it, make effective decision makings, work well together as partners. And now we're sitting here with this powerful movement that's only going to get better.
It's only getting better. What they say, pressure makes diamonds or bursts pipes. What you gonna be?
What you gonna be?
Right? You gotta go through the pressure, you gotta go through the crushing, you gotta go through change, you gotta go through adversity, you gotta go through trials and tribulations. Ain't nothing ever gonna be too sweet.
Man.
You're gonna be uncomfortable, it's gonna be ugly, you're gonna cry, you're gonna have to sit in some emotions, you're gonna have to deal with negative people, you're gonna have to be able to sit with them and navigate that space. You're gonna have to make rational decisions on your environment or your location or the people that you place in your life. You're gonna have to make rational decisions on the woman that you choose to be your wife. All these things, it takes time, but you can't build that up. You can't build up that mental toughness without going through it.
Yes.
Right? So we got to ask yourself, do I want to be a diamond or do I want to be burst pipes?
Man. Hey, our word for the day is sitting it.
Sit in it. Yeah.
That's it.
100%.
All right, brother. Let's move on to our Let's Talk letter. What you got for today?
All right, bet. So let's pull this bad boy up. Our Let's Talk letter says, all right. So there's a young lady that's been talking to a guy for about 6 to 8 months, and she has been wanting to know where they stand. After a therapy session of his, he comes to her and says, you are everything that I want in a woman, but I'm not ready to give you the things that I know you deserve because I'm not him yet. He then asked her to wait on him while he works on becoming the man she needs. What should she do? Wait for him or leave?
All right. Let's get this camera on me real quick. If a guy or girl, whoever you're talking to, says they're not ready to be in a relationship with you, but to wait while they become that person, the very first thing you should do is leave. And the reason why I say that is because, one, if it's God ordained, it will come back around when the time is right.
Right.
But you shouldn't be putting your life on pause while somebody else tries to get theirs together and they're not even committed to you yet. That's first. The second reason why you need to leave is you don't know what blessings you're holding up because you're waiting on this man or woman to become something that they aren't. We don't really know what that's going to be. You're hoping for potential. But there is a man out there that is ready to go. There's a woman out there who already has those qualities and is ready to be with you.
Yep.
So you're delaying your blessings. And three, you're going to destroy your self-confidence in the process because you're sitting there devaluing yourself, sticking around with somebody who is not committed to you, who is not even in the space to say you're mine yet. If somebody would ask you to wait on them, I have to question their own self-worth and how they view you.
Yeah.
Because one thing that I'm really big on is I'm not going to hold up another woman if I know I ain't ready.
Yep.
I understand the consequences of the fact that if I'm not ready and I say that to her, then that means that I got to let her go and that I might lose her.
Yep.
When I am ready, she might not be here.
Yep.
And that's the consequence that's the risk you take when you tell somebody, hey, I can't commit to you right now. Hey, I'm not ready right now. I wouldn't stay around at all. Because if you stay around, you're gonna destroy your own self-worth and how you look at yourself. And all for what? Somebody who may become that person. When
Yep.
when does that even happen?
Right.
So yeah, I will
That's
leave.
that's amazing. There's a quote that says, not the quote, one of my mentors said to me, he was like, Rex, if when you think about marriage, if you couldn't marry the person who they are
Mm,
today,
mm,
then you got to make a decision because you can never expect for them to become the person that you want them to be or the person that they want to be.
yes.
Right. So everything you said was great. It was absolutely amazing. It adds a lot of value. And I think our viewers are going to truly love that. Only thing I will add to that is the only time I think it'd be appropriate to wait is if he says, I'm going to commit to you and I want to grow with you.
There you go.
Because relationships, you're not going to meet somebody that's perfectly
Fully
done,
aware. Yep.
that's fully aware, that's fully developed. Relationships are supposed to allow each other to grow.
Yes.
God said, help mate for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
I see your weaknesses, I make them strength. You see my weaknesses, you make
Mm-hmm.
them strength. We work together, we grow together, we pour into each other. And like, if you're going to therapy, that's great. Okay, cool. Let's sign up for some couple sessions,
Mm-hmm.
right? But if you're saying, can you can we grow together? But I'm going to commit to you. I'm going to do everything in my power not to cheat, to be faithful. I'm going to do everything in my power to be to communicate, to regulate my emotions, to be a leader. I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that you're good. But if you're telling her in a relationship, outside of a relationship, to wait on you,
Exactly.
then the woman or the man, you have to choose yourself.
Yes, it's selfish
Yeah,
because that's the way I see it. Is that's a very selfish thing to say. And to your point, if he had said that, then it would be a different discussion.
100%.
I would ask her to evaluate who he's shown himself to be.
Yep.
Has he shown himself to be at least the type of guy that when he commits to something, he takes it serious? Like, what have you seen him do in the other areas
Yeah.
of his life?
Patterns. Yeah.
Does he take his job or what he does on a daily basis serious, his studies serious, whatever things he's a part of, does he take them serious? Or does he always become a person that's inconsistent and falls off from them? If that's the case, he's going to do the same thing with you.
Yep.
But if you see a man that has the ability that when he says he's going to do something, he does it, then okay, if he's willing to commit to you and say, let's do it together, boom, that's already a good sign. I love somebody who's able to say, I want to do this with you.
Yep.
A lot of times, what we do as men is we won't have ourselves together. And so, what we'll do is we'll take it out on our girlfriend or our wife and then say, I can't do it with you right now. I'm not who you want. It's like they never asked you to be perfect.
Right.
She with you because she loves you for who you are.
Yep.
And she's willing to work and help you become that person. But you push her away because you don't feel like you're ready or can't do it with her.
Right.
But that's what commitment and resilience is all about.
100%.
Yeah.
And I would even say, being in my current relationship, I become a better man because of my partner.
Exactly.
Right? When you see the type of woman that you have in your life, it makes you want to work harder. It
Mhm.
makes you want to develop, right? And if you don't want to work harder, you don't want to develop, you want to remain stagnant, then
Yes.
okay, you definitely had to evaluate who you're with, and you got to evaluate yourself. But like you said, she needs to evaluate, what has he shown her?
Mm-hmm.
What are his patterns?
Mm-hmm.
And if it's some BS, like I said, you have to choose you. You'll never go wrong with choosing you, because one thing you said earlier is another man's not right now is another man's yes.
Exactly. If it's God ordained, it'll work. And if it isn't, you'll be thanking yourself that you didn't stay.
Absolutely. That's good.
All right, sponsors.
Yes, sir. So, man, as you guys know,
Yes.
I recently dropped two journals on Amazon. This first one is called the Until Tomorrow Journal. One thing you'll find in this journal is just a section in the area to write down your thoughts, goals, dreams, aspirations, and then it ends every day with affirmation starting with I am, I will, and I can. And this fill in the blank so you can pour into yourself. The very next one is my 29-day self-discovery journey challenge. Now, this is the one, if you've never revisited your childhood, if you've never asked yourself the right questions, if you've never talked about your relationships with your parents or talked about the relationships with your siblings or just the experience you had growing up, this is 29 questions to help you reflect and help you understand and uncover who you are. So all you have to do is go to Amazon. You can type in Rex Howard Jr. and then the books will pop up, and we'll actually have these books on the link in the bio on the YouTube.
I was just about to say it's already in the link tree.
Yep. So check that out. And then the very last thing is on April the 15th, I am launching my 6-week challenge for helping men shift their mindset, tap into their emotional intelligence. I'm literally going to give you the gifts, the tools, the techniques to regulate your emotions, to become more empathetic, to be more tapped into who you are, to walk into your purpose, and to connect to God on a different level. So check that out. I am Rex Howard Jr. on Instagram, and you'll see everything you need.
Awesome, man. I'm super excited for that. These journals are going to do people really well for their own self work. And I know that program is going to get a lot of men a lot of help that they
Yes,
are looking
sir.
for. So, community is powerful. For me, guys, you guys already know the drill. First off, best selling book, Change Your Mind, Change Your Life. It is in the link on all of our platforms. Should be the second link in there right under his journals. You can find it. It's a bestseller for young adults really going through life, trying to figure out where they're headed, how to navigate the challenges that we face. That's what it's there for. And then also, if you're looking for a speaker in the Houston area or really around the country, I can fly out, I can travel. Let's work together. If you're looking for a speaker for young adults, you have a youth organization or high schoolers, students, colleges. I deal with all those age ranges that can help you with anything that they're dealing with. Other than that, that's everything I got, Rex.
Yes, sir. Me too, man. We out.
All right, guys, sit in it.
We'll see you next week.
Peace.